What's up, everyone? And today's podcast or the topic, this one I will be uploading on my podcast and here on my YouTube channel. And today we're going to talk about doing a pharmacy school in Thailand. So some of you might not know that I'm actually studying pharmacy on my 6th year, which means like I'm the last year, and I'm going to graduate in the next 3 months. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about doing a pharmacy school here in Thailand. There are many things that different from different countries. I've been to Japan to do short time research there in Japan for 3 months, so I know some of their curriculums, like how do they study, and that's quite different from Thailand. And I also had a chance to be a buddy, help some of my friends who are from America. Like we have some kind of we call it MOU, the university program for pharmacy students exchange. So I got to talk with a few friends from the US, so I know we study quite differently. So today we're gonna talk about that. So yeah, basically here in Thailand, people just start to go to pharmacy school when they are around 18, which means after they finish high school, they get to choose what faculty or what major they want to entrance into the university. So we have the system that is called entrance examination, which we're going to use the national score. Depends on what faculty that you want to enter. For example, if you want to enter to the pharmacy school, you need to have PAT2, which PAT2 is also the summary of the biology, physics, and chemistry, all three, and the full score is around 300. So the basic score, I think the best or the medium score would probably be 150, and majorly we use this kind of score for about 70%. That is back then, maybe 6 years ago, so I'm not sure about the system right now. So basically we got to have to take the exams before we can enter to the pharmacy school. In Thailand there are so many pharmacy schools. So the course, the total course that we have to study, is about 6 years. So it takes 6 years to finally finish and get a bachelor degree of the pharmacy, Doctor of Pharmacy. And I think that there are 2 types of the pharmacy here. The first one we call Doctor of Pharmacy, which in this kind of major we study about how to treat the patient using the medicines, and mostly people who graduated from this Doctor of the Pharmacy will work in the hospital. And another one that we call that Pharmacy of the Science. So basically this kind of we call them science pharmacies. So most of the people who study pharmacy science will mostly work in a company or maybe in the factory, the manufacturers about the medicine. So we have 2 types or 2 kinds of the pharmacies here, and both study for 6 years. So some of the university will probably just offer you just for one. For example, my university, we only have for the Doctor of Pharmacy, which means people who graduated from my university will just only work in a hospital or maybe in a drugstore. But if you study in another university, you're probably gonna have to 2 ways to choose. For example, if you study for year 1 to year 3, and then you study all together, and then you decide what kind of pharmacies that you want to be, and you get to choose on your 4th year. So that's how it worked. And yeah, so we have to study 6 years, right? So 6 years sounds a lot, and basically we study really hard. I think we all study very hard, in every major, right? Not just only my major, because we all have some kind of specificity differently. So yeah, that's really depends. So for me, on the first year, we just learned some basic things, cram up all of the things that we have learned in high schools. So we studied math physics, calculus, biology, microbiology, what else? PE, yeah, and then some art. So we will have some kind of like free subjects that we get to pick, but mostly I think like we cannot really pick it at that time, even though for me, because there's just only a few that available at the time that we're free, so we just have like a few classes for us to choose. So yeah, year one, just like the basic thing. So we get to learn and meet with a lot of people from different faculties. And year two, we started to study in our own building, like our own faculty. So this time we get less to meet people from like outside of our faculties, like meet other friends from different like majors. So basically we just start to grouping in the same class, just only for pharmacy students. So we started to learn something like anatomy, biomicrobiology, and then learning some chemical that's more specific on just only for the pharmacy. And then we started to learn pharmacotherapy. Yeah, this time the second year, I think I learned about chemical something. We call it QC, quality. What is that? QC, quality. C, what is the form? Whatever that's called. Quality control. Okay, quality control. This is a really hard subject. Like I think it's really difficult at that time. It's just really the basic. Like every pharmacy student has to learn, because it's the basic, like to teach us how to titrate, how to calculate the function, how to find the label amount of the substances that you got, how to read the graph of the infrared graph, or maybe doing some kind of experiments like chromatography, TLC, and what else did I do? Yeah, mostly it's all about the laboratories that we did on the second year. So this is also the basic that we have to learn. And on the third year, things started to get more complex. I think that is the hardest year ever. I think that the hardest years of the pharmacy school is probably be like my third year and my fourth year, because these are just like the hardest years. Like I couldn't get time to go back home. Like mostly I would just go home every like New Year, but there was time I just stuck at school because I had to read books all day long. So I think that's the hardest day, and we got a really packed schedules at that time. Yeah. I think that we started the class around like 8:30 and finished it around like 7. No, not 7. Sometimes like 5:30 or 7:30. It really depends. Maybe we will have some extra classes after we finish that, because the teacher cannot teach on the time that we have to extend the classes, because the lessons are too long. So yeah, that happens. So yeah, it's quite hard. So on the third year, getting close to be a pharmacist, we started more about the pharmacotherapy. We started to do some patient treatment, and started to learn about the mechanism of how each drug, like how it works, how to manage some kind of like some diseases. Yeah, we learn some diseases from pharmacotherapy. Mostly just learn about the doses and learn about how this works, the mechanism, how to stop the maybe like the chemicals or some neurons, receptors. Mostly that's what we learn. And on the fourth year, we're still on the side of more of a therapy, since I study about the pharmaceutical care, like work in a hospital, right? So most of the thing that I have to deal with patients. So in our university, we have a pharmacy store, like our own faculty pharmacy store. So everyone, I think every single person has to go to the drugstore and to go there to sell the drugs. Sell drugs in this, by this definition, means like doing a drug consulting. Like every patient that comes to our drugstore, we have to ask them the questions and rule out their symptoms, and we can in Thailand we can just prescribe and give the medicine to every patient that comes to our drugstore. Unlike the other countries that you need a prescription before you have to pay or distribute the drug or the medicines. So in Thailand, if you're a pharmacist or you are a pharmacy student under a pharmacist, like a pharmacist that got your back, like a teacher, like watching you can just dispense in the medicines that related and are suitable for the symptoms of the patients. So that means like in Thailand, we can just sell the drugs without any prescriptions. Yeah, so this is one of the things that I find it different from the other countries. So on the 4th year we started to do that, and we learn about how to treat the patient, learn some basic medicines we have already learned it on the 2nd year and 3rd year. So the 4th year we more focus on the therapy side, so we just do some kind of like the drug that needed for more detail. For example, like some cancer drug, the drug that is used in hospital for inpatient, because inpatient and outpatients are different, right? Because their conditions of their health conditions are different, so we have to manage to separate them into two categories. So basically in a drugstore, you just treat the outpatient or the patients that are not severe. So these cases, we just have to ask the questions properly before we can judge or differentiate and diagnose the symptoms, and then we can dispense the medicines correctly. Yeah, so basically we just ask like, okay, so what's your symptoms? Like how many days do you have? How long do you have? Do you have any drug allergies? What's your health conditions? And find out actually the main, like we call it the main cause that why the patients had the symptoms. So basically we just have to treat the main cause of that. So yeah. And since our drugstore is a university drugstore, so that means like we don't sell any antibiotics to patients who doesn't have the indication to use. Because I have to tell you guys, like I mentioned before on the previous one on the drug, that we did a talk you to sleep about the medicine here in Thailand, like about antibiotic use. Thailand, a lot of Thai people confused about the inflammation drug for NSAID, and then another one that for treating bacterial infection, which is antibiotics. People just get confused, like thinking these two are the same thing, but actually they're not. So some of the drugstores that they are not sold by the pharmacist would just dispense any medicines that the patients want without asking them, or without like the indications, like the proper indications for each patient, just because they want to increase the sale. So yeah, I think that's a really bad thing. So that's why my university drugstore has more advantage, because we dispense the drug on the indications, only for the indications of each patient. So yeah, if you come to Thailand, just some tips, be careful just to choose, a drugstore that has a real pharmacist, not just a fake one. Alright, so yeah, that is the first thing. So that's the 4th year. Yeah, on the 5th year, we will have I think we have like 3 months practice that we have to go to the drugstore, like around Thailand. We can choose like what province we want to go, and we get to pick two places that we have to go. First is for the hospital, so we have to work in a hospital, right? So we will get to practice in the hospital for 5 weeks, and then another 5 weeks in drugstore. But this one we can choose and pick the place where we want to go. Some of my friends, they want to be, they want to chill, they want to travel. They're probably gonna choose somewhere like, the place like on the south of Thailand or maybe the north of Thailand. So this really depends. So we just gotta have some competition to choose the place, because we're also a little bit afraid of the places that are not good. Sometimes the preceptors are so crazy. Like crazy. Like okay, they don't listen to you, they just say whatever they want, they don't teach you. There is some kind of like that. It's like, it's very normal. Like, yeah, just like, okay, it's simple, but nobody wants to learn with them, right? So yeah, that's why we have to have like to pick, and choose and go against each other. Like, okay, I want this place, do you want this place? Okay, then what should we do? Like, who's gonna win and get this place? So basically we just, like drill like the number, and then who gets higher number wins. So that's what we did in the past. And for my 5th year, I think I got to choose every place that I want. So I just won every single place that I wanted to go. So yeah, that was great. That was not bad. I think most of the people enjoy their 5th year, because the 5th year is quite chill, because we just do the undergrad thesis on my 5th year. On the 5th year, about the undergrad thesis, we just do any topics. Like, the topics might be about the pharmacotherapy or maybe some research. For me, I did meta-analysis about some asthma patients. So yeah, it was so great. plus, my advisors are just really, really nice to me. So that really depends too. Yeah, I have to say, like, your advisors and your preceptors are everything for you for the whole year that you study. So you have to choose wisely about which one you want to be with, because good environment, encourage you to learn. And then if you have more of the intention to learn with good environment, good preceptors, like good teachers, you will increase the ability, and then you will get more from them, and you will be a good pharmacy. So yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, that's what my 5th year passed, just like that. On my 6th year, which is my current year, I just work all year. Like, I start working since like March. Yeah, until right now, I will finish it around March 2021. So I have to say, like, working and study, it's really different. So for the last year, the pharmacy student, we get to work all year. That means like we get to experience like how the real pharmacists, like do all their jobs. So we will have some fixed 5 clerk shifts, and then another 2 that we can get to select which one or where we want to practice. For the fixed one, or the one that we have to, like every single person have to pass this one, the first one is called medicine. So medicine is all about inpatient. So I just passed it last month. So this one basically is work in an inpatient, which means like the patients are very in quite like severe condition. That's why they have to hospitalize in the hospital. So yeah, we have to go to the hospital or on the wards like every morning, every evening. So this one, I have to say, like, it's the busiest month ever in my life, because I have to wake up very early just to, round the ward, like see the patients before my preceptor came to the hospital, and then I have to do some medical reconciliation, which means like we have to see if the patients already have the like current drug that they already have, and do they have to continue using this medicine, or like have to discuss and consult it with the doctors, like if they want to order this medicine, like continue this medicine or stop it. So yeah, this is our duties or our work that we have to do. And then we got to teach the patients about how to intake their insulin, how to use their COPD drugs, like what do they call that, some spray the user like for asthma patients. Yeah, we call that the things that you use to breathe in, breathe out, the inhalations and stuff like that. And also, what else? The warfarin drug, the drug that has a very narrow therapeutic range. The drug that has a narrow therapeutic range, that means like the drug, just if you take it wrong, it can cause a very severe symptoms. For example, like warfarin. So this one is an anticoagulant. That means like if you have some blood clotted in your body, this medicine will just destroy or just melt those clotting blood and then help your blood flow better. So if the patients change the dose to only 1 milligram, that means that they can increase the blood for example, like maybe 1 of their blood, which can cause them to have severe bleeding. So that is why some medicines that we need to carefully use, and the patient needs some assignments or some helps from the pharmacist. So yeah, this is all the things that we have to do on the inpatient, and we have to check the order. For example, like if the patients are going to discharge, we have to see if the medicine that they currently have and the medicines that they had before are the same, or some things that maybe increase the dose or maybe lower, or maybe they want to off that drug. So we have to check, like we call it check each other. So this is what we normally do in the hospital. And I think I'm not sure like how the hospitals in the US or the country works, because I think it's quite different. Yeah, and another thing, this is the first clerkship, right? And another one is called community pharmacy, which means like working in a pharmacy store. So this is like what I'm doing. So this is basically we just like we can do every single thing. Yeah, just like except we cannot do some physical shake-up. We just can only see the third, but we have to get the patient's permission. Yeah, but we can just dispense any medicine without prescription, and we also do it with prescriptions. So we can do both here in Thailand. And the third one is called a DIS. DIS is called like I think I'm not sure like what it's called, but it's about information, which means like if the nurses or the doctors or even though the pharmacists or everyone in the hospital has any questions related to drug or medicines, we got a call to the DIS center and ask the DIS some kind of finding the information about the medicine. So this is the thing that the pharmacists in Thailand always do, yeah, in every hospital. And the fourth one is called the ambulatory. Ambulatory practice is all about the practice that you need to work with outpatients. The outpatients to come to the hospital to get checked up, like their follow-ups with the doctors. So in my hospital, we have to the patients we come to talk with the pharmacist first. We call it the pre-counseling, and then they're going to see the doctor, and after that they're going to see us again. That is the post-counseling. And in the pre-counseling, we're going to ask every single thing about the medicine use, like the medicine, like how do they use, do they forgot to eat the medicine, and what relates or cause the abnormal of the labs that they have. For example, like some diabetes patients. Okay, so this time you take the medicine correctly, but why your sugar is still rising? So what's the cause of that? So we can take some notes and send it to the doctors. And after that, if the patients have to adjust on the medicine, like maybe they have to increase the dose or maybe they have to add some insulin pen, we will teach them and tell them like what they need to change. This is called a post-counseling. Yeah, so this is what the ambulatory practice do. Does okay. And another thing, what is that? It's called MSMS. MSMS is kind of like a system about the pharmacy that runs in the hospital. So this one, it's just like we are going to be some organizer. We have to learn about how to buy drugs from the company, which means like it's gonna be all the drugs for like everyone in the hospital. Which this one we have to use some kind of like detail person. That person has to be someone who's really in detail, like because they're gonna spend a lot of money to buy the whole medicine for everyone to cover up for about 3 to 4 months each time, and each time we need to do some kind of like paperwork, and do some buying the medicines from the company, and I'm working about the system like management. So I think like this one I'm not really into that, like just so for me. those are the 5 clerkships that we need to practice. Like we have to practice. Like every single pharmacy student have to practice. Yeah, and we got to choose for the 2 to 3 clerkships, like whatever you want to practice. And for me, I chose warfarin as my elective clerkship. Another one that I did was natural product. So natural product was about, some kind of using some herbs or some natural plants and taste it as a medicine. Yeah, so stuff like that. We'll talk more about that maybe in the next video. So yeah, those are basically what I've learned for the next, for the past like 6 years, and yeah, for the rest of the pharmacy school, and which I think that is quite different from other countries. I think that it's gonna be longer than 25 minutes right now. So yeah, maybe we'll continue to do about part 2 in the next video, guys. Alright, so that's it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions or if you have anything to share with me about your pharmacy school in your country, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to see you guys again next time. Bye!